Well, I can say I'm Beth, and this is my husband, Trevor. Okay. And we've been married for 53 years, and we've always dabbled in arts and crafts from the time we got married, basically. So
from macrame in the 60s and ceramics and all those sort of things, we've always dabbled. Both of us, even before we were married, we both dabbled in textile type things. So yeah, and we have two children.
yes,
a boy and a girl,
adult
children, and four beautiful granddaughters.
Yeah.
Yes, one who also is a very talented textile artist. So.
Yes, and we were born in Melbourne. Trevor was born outside of Melbourne in a country town. We moved to Canberra in 1982, and that's where quilting came in. Our neighbour introduced us to quilting, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the start of it all, I guess. Yeah.
We belong to a group which is actually the oldest quilting group in Australia, and that's Canberra Quilters. Here, it's been running for nearly
50 years.
Yeah. It was actually our next door neighbour who invited Beth to a meeting, and Beth went along to the Canberra Quilters meeting, and she came home and she said to me, I think you might be interested in coming along to this as well. So I then went along to the next meeting, and well, we've been there ever since.
And he became, I think, one of two male members in Canberra Quilters. So that was...
Yeah. I eventually went to university at age 50 and did a degree in textiles, where I got in with my portfolio was quilting. So and then I sort of worked through a degree with honours in textiles. So that expanded my knowledge of sort of the overall textile sort of world.
Yeah, but we have heaps of books on textiles. We follow textile magazines and sites. Instagram's been amazing over the last few years with textile related things. So
obviously being members of SAQA gives us a lot of inspiration too, because of their specific exhibitions that they call for entries for. So that stimulates us into sort of, looking into these different aspects of quilting.
Yeah, and we're also members of AusQuilt, which is an Australia with New Zealand members. It's kind of an Oceania thing. Mainly Australian members who are interested in art quilting. So we're members of that group as well within Australia.
Of which Beth is actually the newsletter editor. We tend to get stimulated when we get given a challenge. But SAQA, for instance, they might have one which they might call red, so that gets my mind going, like, how can I interpret red in some way? And this one, the birds, the Aviary exhibition, it happened to be that we had worked with this image, and so this was a good way to sort of use that image in this particular quilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also, our son lives in a country town in Wagga, which is 3 hours away from us, and we do a lot of driving between Canberra and Wagga, and you get a lot of inspiration from the countryside as you're driving through it. And it is, Australia has some beautiful wide open spaces, and the countryside sometimes is just perfect for what you're thinking of.
Canberra also is a very beautiful city. It's one of the most beautiful capital cities in the world. And just the bush is the forests and bush is very close to us. So we live just within walking distance of wild country here in Canberra. It surrounds us everywhere. And we also have fabulous galleries and so forth here in Canberra. The National Gallery of Australia, based here in Canberra, is a world famous exhibition space. Fabulous. Yeah.
National Portrait Gallery.
The National Portrait Gallery. We've got fabulous things all here in Canberra.
Heaps of beautiful places to visit and exhibitions that come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Quite often we will go to the gallery and look at paintings, and that stimulates me to come home and start sketching and playing with ideas. I just get stimulated looking at art, really, in all forms.
Well, since we've been retired, it's our daytime. Well, it's a bit of a recreation, and it's also our daytime work. It's something that fills our space with colour and beauty. So
we can never understand when people say, "Oh, you must get so bored." We don't have enough hours in the day, basically. I'm a keen gardener, and I'm a keen cook, and the studio. We have our own studio, and that takes a fair amount of our time. And people then say, "But you're so prolific," And you say, "Well, no, it's what we do. It's our day.
It's what we do during the day now that we did when we worked and did everything at night time because we couldn't do it during the day."
We live in quite a simple 3-bedroom home, but we sacrificed one of the bedrooms to become an office, which then led into a 5 meters by 7 meters studio that we had built on the back of the house. So we have a dedicated studio. It has rather large cupboards all the way round 2 sides of it that house all our fabrics. We have a very large boardroom table in the middle of the room. Beth sits on one side of that with her sewing machine, while I sit on the other side of that doing cutting, drawing, painting, whatever. And the work goes from one side of the table to the other, backwards and forwards as we work through a piece. So I will be cutting the pieces or painting the pieces, drawing images, etc., handing it to Beth. She sews it together. She hands it back to me. I do the ironing. You can see how that process would go backwards and forwards, which fascinates everybody. They say, "How do you work collaboratively?" And it's that process. We've gotten to the point now where we sort of almost intuitively know what the next part of it's going to be, or I will do hand the piecing to Beth. She'll piece it, and then when it comes to the quilting, she knows exactly what I'm thinking as far as the way that piece will be actually quilted or put together. Yeah. So it's become a sort of a natural thing for us to just
pass back and forwards,
and each of us does their own little part of it. I do lots of sketches because I'm the drawer. Beth doesn't draw except with the machine. She can draw with a sewing machine, but she's not the drawing on the paper.
Well, it's not my interest. So.
Yeah, and so I will do lots and lots of drawings. We'll discuss those drawings. We'll decide on sort of where we're going to take the piece. And then I pull out these big drawers. Now, one big drawer will be full of just red fabrics. Another will be yellow, etc., etc. So I start pulling out fabrics, and we throw all the fabrics down on the table. We audition the fabrics. We throw away, put back in the drawer anything that doesn't suit, and that's where it starts. Yeah. And then I start cutting and throwing the pieces at Beth, and she throws them back to me, and so the process goes on and on.
It depends on the deadline, really. But I mean, the two working together, we can do a piece a lot quicker than one person working by themselves.
We normally do.
And we normally work every day. So, I mean, for a large quilt, we could probably 3 to 4 weeks get it to a stage where we could start thinking about putting it all together, basting it and quilting it. I mean, it depends on if we're piecing or painting, and what the initial stages are and how much time they take up.
We have put together quite a large quilt in a week.
Yeah.
But that's been because it's been mainly painted by me. Okay. Hand painted by me, and it's a whole cloth quilt. So then I just layer it. I usually do the layering of the fabrics and the wadding and so forth, and then I hand it to Beth, and she will quilt it. So we've actually done quite large wall pieces in a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we keep it pretty consistent. I mean, when we started out, we did a lot of piecing, but it was always by machine. I did start hand quilting. We hand quilted the first maybe 4, maybe 5 quilts, but the time that took, I mean, there's like so little time to do stuff, and spending all that time doing the hand quilting, even though it is beautiful, I found I could do a similar thing with the sewing machine and get the same effect, and it was quicker for me.
We're never adverse to trying something new, and we've genuinely been very avant-garde with our colours, patterns, processes, etc. We tend to sort of think up things ourselves. We do follow some trends, but generally we and that was part of my university training, was trying things, and also simplifying things. Don't let things become too complex, and particularly with design. So the piece that in the exhibition is part of that sort of simplification process that we like in our pieces. Well, we were actually teaching in Tasmania, and in Hobart, Tasmania, and the group there said, our theme this year is birds. Trevor, have you got any ideas? So while Beth was teaching them quilting, and I was sitting there, and I thought, okay, got out my sketchbook, I got out my phone, I looked up images of birds that actually habitat the shorelines of Tasmania. And one of them was the oyster catcher. And so I just played around with ideas. I looked at a few images, and then I drew that very, very simple little line drawing of the oyster catcher. And that really got me going, because then I started looking at photos of oyster catchers and all their movements and their quirkiness were on the shoreline. Some were looking up as if there was a sea eagle about to pounce on them. Some of them had their heads down, sort of looking at the sea, trying to see if there was anything to eat. And so there were all these different positions that they were standing in and so forth. So that was what really sort of got me going with this line drawing. And then when we discussed it, we thought, well, okay, we've got to do a shoreline. How can we simplify that shoreline down? And that became the blocked pieces at the bottom of the quilt. And the sky, and it just has to be this very sort of wishy-washy sort of color. It's not. I don't want to do a blue sky, and it's one of those sort of hazy mornings or something like that. And so we got out the fabric. Now you can see when you look at the quilt that was the brown and yellow drawers that I keep the fabrics in.
Yeah.
And lately we've been only using fabrics in our stash. We try not to buy more fabric at the moment because we've got lots and lots of fabric.
Yeah.
So that's how it came about. And it became a bit of a series as well. So we have another couple of quilts using that same little bird. And he's one of my favorite things to do is just sort of see how many different positions I can put him in.
Yeah, and you can convey all the movement with that little simple drawing with the head looking all different ways. So it just, it looks really good. It's international for us, and it's very exciting to be selected for an exhibition that is travelling overseas. You sort of, at our age, when you wrap up a quilt and post it off for an exhibition, you wonder whether you'll be here when the thing comes back. But just I guess bragging rights too. It's wonderful to be a part of so many quilts that are absolutely fabulous. And I know there are other Australian quilters in this exhibition, and their quilts are fabulous as well. It's just amazing, sort of the work that you can see.
We've always been inspired by Japanese art and their way quite often of that simplification of very, very beautiful, simple images. And that's what we like. When we send off a piece, we hope that the world can see that you don't have to make this quilt with 6,000 fabrics and 23 different techniques. It can be something that is very, very simple, but can also be very dramatic or very aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. And we hope that it stimulates people to use that technique as well. Yeah.
A lot of the time it's space.
Space.
because with fabric and sewing machines and things all over the table, being in a small house, we don't have the space to sort of photograph ourselves. We get them professionally photographed. And also we really don't have the space to hang our quilts if we wanted to. So they're generally, our daughter has some on her walls and our son has a few on his walls. So we go visit and see our quilts hanging, and it's really, really nice.
We do have quilts in private collections
as well, yeah.
Basically all over the world as well, Europe, America, etc. So we say goodbye to some of them and send them off. Yeah, and yeah.
A sense of fun, actually. The little birds on the shoreline just looking every which way. They're even though it's a quilt and it's just still, it is in its own way animated, because you can look at it and get the feeling of them looking away and looking to you and behind. I think just the general happiness of the quilt, I think.
I think when you look at the quilt, you can actually get that sense of the shoreline, and you can almost smell the smell of the sea and the seaweed, yeah. and you can almost hear the call of the seabirds when you look at the quilt. Yeah.
Just do it. Don't think too hard.
Plunge in,
do it, and never. ever look at your work as being sort of not good enough. There are a lot of people that we've heard that won't put quilts into shows because they don't think they're good enough, and everyone's good enough. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Some of the most famous quilts in the world now, from America particularly, like the Gee's Benz quilts, and the Amish Mennonite quilts,
Mm-hmm.
were made as simple bed coverings. They're now regarded as great works of art, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you've got to remember. And don't necessarily, if you get into quilting, don't necessarily pick up all the how-to books and do it that way. You can to start with. It gives you a basic way of putting things together, but at the same time, do your own thing. You know, if you think something might look good by hand stitching it together with great big 1-inch stitches, do it. You know, it's part of that art process of pushing the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is we have pieces started by our children, like in our art collection. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's that beginning. It's all wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just all that piecing in the bottom bit was a bit hard.
Small
all the
pieces.
inch squares, getting them to remain an inch and keep them nice and even and not buckling in any way. That was a little difficult, but apart from that, it was a pretty easy piece to put together. Really, it went together like some pieces do. It's sort of like magic, and it works really well. And then other pieces you have to fight with.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was one of the pieces that was a dream to put together.